Hello and welcome back to the MB Strength and Fitness podcast hosted by myself, Megan, where I'll break down and simplify all things in relation to fat loss, health, fitness and nutrition. So in today's episode, I'm welcoming one of my online clients, Louise, who I've been working with since January. And Louise has gone from strength to strength in both her confidence in training, her weight loss goals. That's been a byproduct really of kind of the confidence she's gained in her training and her different habits with nutrition that she's developed over the course as well. So she completed her first 8 weeks and she's now dipping into her second 8-week block of the online coaching. And I just wanted to kind of get a background of Louise's experience on the programme and see what she thinks of it herself as well. So how are you today, Louise?
I'm great, Megan. How are you?
All's good. So thanks a million for joining the podcast there today. Just kind of wanted to get a background on your own kind of experience on the programme. And for listeners, they might kind of get a breakdown of what the program is about, and maybe then as well, it might be something other people would be interested in and find out more info as well. So I suppose just to start off, Louise, I wanted to kind of maybe get a background on your fitness journey to date, maybe things you've tried in the past, and why you felt you needed to join the Sustainable Fat Loss Program.
Yeah, no problem at all, Megan. I suppose for me, I've always kind of struggled, since my teenage years, always watching my weight. If I looked at anything, I put on weight easily. Cut a long story extremely short, 2 kids later, going through the menopause, I have done everything from Slimming World, Weight Watchers, and for me, I knew I needed to do something for my bones and that. So I started doing a strength and conditioning class here in my local town 2 mornings a week. And I found really beneficial from that, but I knew I needed to work on my nutrition. So I discovered you on Instagram, and I followed you for a while, and then, as I say, the rest of it is history. When I joined up with you, because your approach from the very first day, Megan, is so just normal. You go into so much depth, but it's a learning curve. The app is amazing, so easily done. It takes a few days to get used to it, programming in your food. But one thing I have found, that's why I think this is me for the rest of my life. The way your approach towards, you have to live as well, where I would always struggle, basically, we say doing like all the other classes that I've done would be the weighing scales. And it was completely embedded in my brain that was what it was. Whatever way your weight on the scales was, that was it. But you have taught me so much more. That is not just the scales, that it's how you feel in your clothes. And you have taught me as well protein, like to eat more protein. You, anytime I've ever had to send a message, you always got back to me. And then, online then as well, like a couple of your classes I've done, which you taught me as well that I needed to learn first, with the nutrition side of things first, get on top of that, which I have done, and which has really, really worked for me. I have never been hungry. I'm just buzzing. I have more energy, and I'm happier in myself. 100%.
Brilliant. Yeah, brilliant. And I suppose the whole thing of, fat loss and weight loss being the goal, that's kind of a byproduct to you focusing on the process of kind of making better habits with your nutrition, and kind of learning that it's not all about the numbers that you see on the scales then as well, because I think a lot of people get caught up in that, and to try and maybe take that emotional attachment away from the scales is a massive thing for people as well. And kind of in my previous podcast this week, that's something I kind of dived into to kind of, I suppose, give people more knowledge in that, and that's something I like for people to learn from the get-go. Obviously it's there as a metric that we can come back to see how we're doing in terms of our fat loss progress and stuff like that. But that's going to be a byproduct if you focus on the nutrition side of things, making those, little changes here and there. And then, having kind of a routine with your movement. And it's great that you kind of started into those, training classes, strength conditioning classes that you did, which was probably new to you at the time, I'd say. You hadn't really been in a gym. Yeah. So that was a big change at the start. So, serious change. And then I suppose just coming back to the nutrition side of things there, Louise, you were saying that you've kind of improved your protein intake. And would you say overall, compared to the diet you would have been following before the program, was there massive changes, or do you feel it was just kind of simple changes to particular parts of your meals that you, I suppose, found the benefit from, rather than, completely wiping your diet and having to follow a, kind of restrictive meal plan or completely new meal plan?
Okay, I suppose again for me, and definitely going forward for anyone of my friends, I'm telling them all about you, Megan, and your program, and just they can't get over how much. Like for example, I was away for a few days, and they couldn't get over all that I eat. They were like,
Yeah.
"How come you're hungry?" And I said, "I'm not actually hungry," but I said, "This is what I eat, and I'm eating so much more. It's completely different. I wasn't eating enough. That was
Yeah.
my problem, and
And I
then I
think
was hungry
that's,
at night, and then that was my downfall. I was picking."
yeah.
And it just doesn't work. Whereas now I'm organised, which again you have taught me. I'm organised from the night before, so I know what I'm going to eat. And because I have a family here and I have two young kids, we eat the same food, which is before this I'd be like, oh no, maybe I should just eat my salad and a bit of chicken.
Yeah.
Now I'm eating a dinner. I always would eat a dinner, but it's in more. I know I'm eating more protein. I'm drinking more water. I thought I was drinking enough water. No, I need more than 2.5. I actually need 3 liters, like you have advised me to. And I'm a different person. And I'm living proof. Anyone that has seen me lately just said, Louise, you're like, there's something different about you. If you cut your hair, I'm like, no, I've toned up. And I'm happier. I'm happier in me. And that
Yeah.
takes, for me to even say that, because, and I want to, as I've said to you, I want to nurture going to the gym. And I wish that I lived in Longford, but anyway I don't. But I am getting benefit from it, and I want to get more, I suppose, assertive in me, to be able to go into the gym and do it. But you have taught me that. But
Yeah.
again, as I know, I'm going back on what I said before, but I remember before, whenever I go away, I'd feel so guilty if I jumped on the scales, and I'd be like, oh, for God's sake, why did I bother, having that glass of wine, or why did I have that slice of bread? Because, before this, I wouldn't touch bread. And now I'm
Yeah.
having bread every day because you can. And I'm
Yeah.
living proof. I just can't believe it, because I know some of my, people that I know would be, not that they'd be starving themselves, restricting themselves, I
Yeah.
suppose. And yes, it'd work for a certain length of time, but then when they go back eating normally, I hate the normal, then they'd put all their weight back on. But I'm
Yeah.
living proof. I went away, and yes, a couple of pounds went on, and before this I'd be like, oh, and I'd nearly sabotage everything. But I did what you advised me to do, because I messaged you and you told me increase my water. I went back doing my walking. I drank all my water when I was away as well. And I was very good. I made sure I always had my protein for my breakfast and my dinner and lunchtime, pardon. And then at night time, then you'd have the treats. But
Yeah.
after 4 days, I was back to what I was before I left. And I felt I was on cloud nine.
Yeah, absolutely.
100%.
And I think
Yeah.
that's a great thing for people to hear, because that's a really common question I'd get as well, how to approach maybe going out or a meal out. And, the issue arises in the aftermath of that, like your reaction to feeling guilty and letting that, dwell on that and lead that into the following week is normally where,
Yeah.
you start to have that negative mindset. And that's where the progress is really lost. It's not in that holiday or that meal out or that weekend away or whatever it is, because you're feeling guilty in the aftermath, and you're
Yeah.
kind of dwelling on that and letting that, take over. So, just kind of focusing on those the four pillars I do always say is the water intake, step count, trying to increase your protein intake, and just trying to get back to normal eating, when you're in the aftermath of, say, that weekend away or holiday or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Because the longer you dwell on that, the harder it is to get back into routine and kind of find that again for yourself. So I think that's a really good thing to hear. And just touching on something you said there as well, that you're eating more now than, say, you ever were. Like, so, I suppose a lot of people would maybe relate to that as well, in terms of that they feel as though they have to eat less to lose fat or lose weight or get in shape. And it's quite the opposite, but obviously you need to be eating more of the right stuff. But you
Correct.
need to, fuel yourself so that you're not falling into that trap of snacking on too little too often, which is another thing people would kind of struggle with, in that kind
Yeah.
of goal that they're looking for. So definitely that's a really insightful thing, for other people to hear as well, that it's not always about eating less and moving more. It's about kind of just trying to find something that is sustainable for you. And I suppose that kind of leads me on to the next question, Louise. Do you find as though, what you've learned is something that I suppose with the name of the program, Sustainable Fat Loss Program, is that something that you have gained out of this in terms of being able to sustain what you're doing with your nutrition and your exercise and stuff like that?
Again, 100%, Megan. Like, I know now, we say I didn't think I'd ever grasp. For me, again, I've never used an app, where you type in all your different what food you were going to have. But then we say after maybe a week or so, all you do is the night before, you just put in your food that you're going to have the day before, and you stick to it. Sometimes it might be thrown a little bit right or left. That you might just be 100%. And then I could, contact you and just say, look, I'm struggling a bit with X. I might just say, I can't get enough protein in. But all I was doing wrong was I wasn't reading the labels right. I wasn't listening to some of the things in the beginning. And that definitely, it is the way, like, for the last few days, we say I'm not on with you, when you say I'm using the app all the time, but I am still the same. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like going forward. I am this way for the rest of my life. Do you know
Yeah.
what I mean? This is the new me.
Yeah, that's
It's
great.
so much, and I mean, I going back then when the next set of few weeks that I'd be back on the app again, like I'm dipping in and dipping out, but you get to know what food works and what makes it, do you know what I mean, what keeps you fuller for longer.
Yeah.
And it's in my head.
Yeah.
It's just really got, it's in there. Yeah.
Brilliant. And I think that's
100%.
really good because, like, a lot of people will kind of maybe look for recipes and look for, the right foods. And yeah, it's about finding the right foods, but kind of finding stuff that is kind of, that you can have quite regularly, like staple meals, I like to call them, because then you can kind of maybe vary between them from week to week. Like, for example, for myself, I could prep the protein source on a Sunday evening for say 3 days in advance, and then
Yes.
I could have a different protein source for the next couple of days in the week. So
Yes.
it's kind of,
Yeah.
I like to focus on basing the meal around the protein source, and I think that's probably
Yeah.
something that has worked for you. Is when
Yeah.
when you were on the holidays there as well. I would have kind of said to you, start your day off with a decent breakfast, because then you're not likely to be as vulnerable to snacking earlier on in the day and then just completely going over your calories because you're over hungry. So,
Yeah.
for anyone that's listening, even at the weekend or going on holidays, I always try and get people to focus on having something, early in the day with a protein source for breakfast, because you're less
Yeah.
likely then to run the risk of, just picking up bits and pieces here and there for the rest of the day or even early afternoon. So I
Yeah.
think that's a really important thing as well. But yeah, like, it's really good to see that you started off on the coaching program and the app, tracking your calories. But a big thing for me is that we don't want to have to track our calories forever. That's not something we want to do every day of our lives. It's a tool there to be used to give you an idea of what you're eating, and I think that's something as well. Like, I kind of preferred to see what you were eating prior to starting the program, say the first 2 weeks, like a kind of trial and error week. Give me an idea of what you're eating, and then I'll come in with feedback to give you ideas where you could change things up. And I think that's a good way for a lot of people, rather than just sending them out a meal plan, because it more than likely won't fit with their lifestyle. Like for yourself there with the two
Yes.
kids and stuff, you
Yeah.
need to have something that's sort of that you're able to have for everyone there as well, to a certain extent. So making little changes here and there is kind of what a lot of people need, and just
Definitely.
being more mindful.
Definitely. Yeah,
Yeah.
because Megan, to be honest with you, I know myself. We'll say if I did get a meal plan, and we'll say one of the girls didn't like whatever, I know I'd give in, and I'd end up making something else, and I'd end up eating it. So
Yeah.
you know what I mean? I'm
Yeah.
saying it as it is, like 100%, and then I feel so guilty and whatever. But no, and even Gary, like, has even said to me, he can see an awful difference in me. I'm just eager to do things. It's not that I was whatever, but see, I'm going through the menopause as well, so my body is changing. My hormones are all over the place, but I know I stick to the nutrition side of things that
Yeah.
you have taught me to do. I need to work more on doing more exercises with you online. I
Yeah.
love your app as well, where you can dip in and dip out. We'll say I could be somewhere, maybe in Aldi today, and could be in Dunn's tomorrow. I might see something, and I might just take a picture of it, and I can, when I come home, because I wouldn't be great now messing with the phone in a shop, and I
Yeah.
can and just is it a good product, protein wise, fibre wise, and everything. And then I write down my shopping list and go, right, I get that the next day. Do you know what I mean?
Very good.
And then also the WhatsApp group. And even today, like, you put in that lovely snack with the the jelly and the yogurt, and I'm like, I'm having that tonight. Do you know what I mean? It's
Yeah,
just, you know, and
yeah,
it is a sweet
yeah.
thing, and you don't feel guilty. It's just
Yeah, that's
brilliant.
it. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, absolutely. Like the Greek yogurt is there's so much you can do with it. And like and again, like coming back to the protein snacks and all that kind of a side note there. Like obviously they are going to be a better source than diving into maybe a chocolate bar and not being able to stop when it comes to them, but just not to become over reliant on those high protein snacks. And that's where I like people to maybe try out Greek yogurt, because you can add so much stuff to that, because let's face it, it tastes rotten on its own, but you can do so much with it. Like I would throw in like a jelly pot, or some protein powder, some fruit, and it's more whole ingredients. Greek yogurt
yeah,
itself is a low ingredient product, and it's very high in protein, whereas the protein yogurts and kind of protein bars obviously are going to be more processed, which is completely normal.
yes,
They have to be, but just not to become over, I suppose, reliant on those types of things. And
yeah,
that's something that maybe would have helped your digestion. You were struggling a little bit with your
yeah.
digestion as well for a while.
100%. And
Yeah,
my downfall was, which took me a while to cop onto it, I was eating too much fruit. I was eating the
yeah,
wrong fruit as well. I was like, I'd sit down and nearly have, I don't know how many pieces of fruit, and before I go to bed at night, and then I'd be ill the next day. Like I would seriously be ill. My stomach would be swelled, and
yeah.
I was like, okay, I still drinking the water, but again, I thought I was drinking enough. But I literally was probably drinking a litre and a half to two. I need to have at least 2.5 to 3 litres every day. Every
Yeah,
day. And I know now what fruit works for me and what fruit doesn't. Even though
yeah,
they say 5 pieces of fruit, but for me, for my stomach, I just can't do that. But I
yeah.
have me natural yogurt. Or your tip, the best ever was, if you're ever craving something really sweet. And I was totally allergic to Weetabix because I got it, I think, every morning going to national school, and I hated it. Ugh, heated up with warm milk, yuck. And you gave a lovely recipe one day. It's on your Instagram actually, and it's 2 Weetabix broken down with the protein powder, the chocolate one, yum yum, and almond milk, and one of them Kavark lemon cheesecake one on top. Oh
Oh
my
yeah,
god! And a few raspberries. It's like having a dessert for your
yeah.
breakfast,
It's very nice.
and I
Yeah,
love it. And that, I have my quick fix, and it's just, and I love it, love
yeah,
it, love it, love it. So I might have that 2 or 3 mornings a week, and
yeah.
then I alternate. Then I could have eggs and avocado and a slice of sourdough bread. I would never eat anything like that before. I'm
Wow.
like,
Okay.
yeah, it's just, and or else I'd have me porridge soaked, and
Yeah,
then a few berries as well. Yeah,
yeah.
definitely.
Brilliant.
Yeah,
Yeah, and just the point you made there about the fruit, I think that's really interesting. Like, so like fruit obviously is obviously good for us. It's a natural source of sugar and everything else like that. But I think when people go on sort of a healthy diet as such, they think that they have to eat loads of this stuff. But the problem was, I found with a few clients, is that they were eating a lot of fruit at the one time. So like, say for their breakfast, they will be loading
yeah.
on like fruit, loads of fruit, say on a bowl
I
of
used to do
porridge,
that.
without
Yeah,
any protein, and there's no protein there, so like you're going to easily digest that. And then as well, in the evening time, say you were having your bowl of fruit or whatever, and there was no kind of like protein source, there was no balance of macronutrients there to that meal, so it was a high level of sugar at that time in the night, which would have kind of affected
yeah,
your digestion as well. So
yeah.
that's a really interesting point as well. So just to kind of, I suppose, what would you say, balance it out throughout the day a little bit more is going to be a better approach for that there. But yeah,
Yeah.
that's really, really interesting. And I suppose I just kind of wanted to ask you, like, what has been your biggest achievement or confidence boost on the journey, Louise, so far?
For me, thanks to you, is how I feel in my clothes. For the first time, I think in I don't know how many years, I don't feel. Look, I'm not where I want to be yet. That'll happen, and it's all a progress. It's my new journey. But like I love my clothes anyway. But I feel better in them, and I
Yeah.
know I look better in them. And that for me, whatever about the scales, and yes, that took me, and you know that I struggled a bit with you. I was kind of messaging going, can't understand how come the scales aren't going down. But
Yeah.
like inches, like the way, and I couldn't understand how come you have to weigh yourself every day. Oh God, why would you do this? But you do, because you're
Yeah.
right. Because your cycle can be whatever way mine's finished because I'm going through the menopause. But hormonally, my body is all over the place. So if I was weighing myself the same time we'll say once a week, I wouldn't know where I'd be. Whereas because I'm doing it because of you every morning, and then and because you have to send in photographs and you fill in your form every week, which is brilliant. And you can come back then with amazing feedback, what needs to be tweaked, what doesn't need to be tweaked. But also, it's a way of living. This is my new way of living. Do you know what I mean? Like I was kind of a bit, and I'll be honest with you, Megan, I told you this, I was a bit kind of dubious about going away thinking, will I undo everything I have done now at Megan? But I haven't. And I literally came back on, the minute I came back, I was back on track the next day, drank my water, but I was so good on holidays too. But good as in, I still had what everybody else was having and didn't feel one bit guilty, because life's too short for that. But you have taught me what to do, and don't feel guilty. Just do it and just get back on track again. Drink the water, walk. Yeah. Yeah,
Amazing.
definitely.
Yeah, that's really, really good to hear, Louise. No, 100%. Thanks a million for that.
Sure.
And I suppose just to finish off, Louise, would you recommend the program to someone else, or online coaching in general?
100%. I think you might have 2 new people that will be contacting you soon enough, 2 people that went on holidays.
Very good.
And anyone that asks me, I just say, look, I never did anything like this before. And I'm not just saying because you've asked me to talk on this, but Megan, your approach is just your normal. Before this, if you ever, for example, any of the ones that I went before, as in into class, any of them, you jump up in the scales and this person shouting at you, oh my God, you put on 2 pounds, what were you at? I go, oh, what place it here? Like, oh, for God's sake, like, it's only, and it would, and it puts in so much bad humour, and you nearly go home and you nearly call into a shop and you get chocolate and you get crisp and like, whereas you're normal is about, do you know what I mean? Like you're living too when we all have to live, and it's just I would 100%. It's the best thing I have ever done for me, and ongoing. This is me. I'm just going to be your pest. I'm just going to be there all the time, Megan. And you could bring your gym to me here. It'd be amazing. I'd even be happier.
No, we could do that. We could organise that maybe. We'll see. No, look thanks a million. No, thanks a million, Louise. I really appreciate that. And look at it just goes to show your consistency as well throughout the first 8-week block, and that you were able to kind of bring that with you through your holidays and your weekends away and stuff like that as well, and not feel guilty. And that's just my main aim as a coach, make people feel better about themselves without the restriction, basically, so 100%.
I don't mean to cut over you, but one thing is for sure, like it's a new way of living. Like this is not a quick fix. There is a quick fix if you want a quick fix, whatever it is, but that doesn't last. This lasts, and I'm living proof of that. And I'm not just saying, I am living proof. I only did the first 8 weeks, blown away by it, felt so good. Again, as we've discussed already, it took a while for me to see the difference on the scales. But my God, when I seen the difference on the tape, and then I seen it on the scales, and now I'm not really worried about scales. Scales. It's my clothes. It's the tape. And it's all thanks to you. Yeah.
Good stuff. No, 100%, Louise. I really appreciate that. Thanks a million for coming on to the podcast, and look forward to working with you into the future. All right. Thanks a million. Thanks a million, Louise. I'll talk to you soon, all right? Cheers. Thanks.